Hello and welcome to PopFlash. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and this is everything you need to know about Counter-Strike this week. Our first story this week is DreamHack Open Stockholm, which took place over the weekend from September 22nd to 26th, and of course was also a qualifier for the next Valve-sponsored major, which takes place in Cluj, Napoca at the end of October. So, Jason, let's have a look at the group stage results. Of course, this was a tournament of group stages, no bracket, so to speak. But as we have a look at Group A, we'll see that Cloud9 and Dignitas advanced from this group. Cloud9 beating out Dignitas in the winners match, and then Dignitas over on the far right there, beating Immunity in the second place game. And perhaps no surprises, these two teams seem like they would be the favourite. Cloud9 were dominant pretty much throughout the group on cash, and pretty robust on the other maps. Jason, what's your take on how this group played out?
Yeah, I mean, really no surprises. That's a good way to put it. Cloud9 being dominant on cash again, that's a good sign, because that became one of their home maps during their run to those 3 consecutive finals earlier in the summer. So for them to be strong on that map again is really, really good. Overall though, I mean, they still show signs of struggling on the CT sides, and that's something they have to fix for the major if they want to be able to go deep into the bracket, or actually even make it out of group stages, which they didn't do in Cologne. So good that they're looking good, but they still have a lot of work to do, and so does Dignitas. I mean, that struggle against Immunity, that's not a team. They've had some good results, so you wouldn't expect them to struggle like that against Immunity.
No. Okay, well, let's jump over and take a look at Group B next on the agenda. Over here, again, perhaps no surprise in the fact that Titan have qualified from Group B. This is the new look Titan roster, of course. They had Scream playing for them for the first time. And also Team Vexed qualified from this group. Now, Jason, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with you, because last week on PopFlash, you said that Vexed, we probably wouldn't see Vexed again. This was, they wouldn't qualify and they'd kind of just peter away. Yeah. And yet they've qualified for the major. Do you care to explain yourself?
Yeah, I got that one wrong. There's nothing really to say. I thought, Hellraiser's all the talent in the world, and I guess it's my own fault, because even when Hellraisers had that star-studded lineup, way back when they first formed, I never really had a lot of confidence in them, and they're still displaying that same trend of being able to win like a map here and there, but not able to put together a full series. But either way, I mean, great play from Vexed. Rollin played really well. Hyper had some really good performances. But the big story to me is Titan just kind of cruising through. I mean, they did drop a map to Hellraisers, but Scream comes in only like 2 or 3 days before actually, I think he was signed the day before the event began, so a good performance for him just flying in that day and just getting started right in the team.
All right, well, definitely agree, and let's move over to Group C now. So 2 more North American teams in play here. Mouse Sports, of course, qualified in the winners match. They're in the top middle, which I think we alluded to last week. That was pretty much a shoo-in. But also good news for the Americans. Team Liquid qualified in the second place game, which now means we have 3 North American teams qualified for the next major. However, it does come at the expense of the Australians. Renegades were knocked out here in this group, Group C, and Immunity, as we mentioned, got knocked out in Group A. Renegades, I think it's fair to say, Jason, haven't looked too hot recently, have they?
No, they haven't. Yeah, they really dropped the ball on this one. I mean, losing 2-0 to Liquid. Liquid played a really good game against them. It's tough, because Liquid's best map is Cache. It's a map that Renegades also likes, and they just kind of ran into a wall there on that map. But you're kind of seeing with Liquid the effect that Hiko's brought to the table. People getting more comfortable in their roles, people playing a little bit more freewheeling. He brings a lot of power and aggression, a lot of like clutch power, round-saving performances. Him and Adred perform really, really well in 2vx situations, so they have that front line that just goes out and deals the damage, and those guys clean it up, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, Renegades, they're slipping a little bit at the moment.
And just to touch on Mouse Sports as well, they were looking unusually good, right? I mean, they were absolutely on form. They were firing on all cylinders, though they did play the 2 American teams in the group.
Yeah, it's good, because they went out in groups in Cologne. They'd been in a little bit of a slump leading up to this event, but for them to peak at that moment, it's the right time to do it. Also, they got a little bit of a benefit. I think Liquid, a couple mistakes in the winners match pick ban phase in terms of maps, because they played Mouse Sports in the same maps they had just played Renegades on in the series previous, and when you let Gabi have that time to watch you play a map, I mean, he's going to exploit it. So a little bit of a fumble from them, but also just a sign that with this Hiko coming in, this new roster, they don't necessarily have a deep map pool quite yet.
All right, yeah, definitely agree. Again, Gabi is a smart guy, and he and I go deep, as I like. I
See
don't
your
know.
boy.
Exactly. All right, Group D, last but not least, CLG and Flipside qualify here. Again, I don't think any surprise there. The two teams I think we alluded to last week. And Flipside in particular have been looking really consistent recently. I mean, the statistics for this tournament, Markelov was their statistically worst player, and yet even he had +8 kill death ratio and a .99 rating. So, fair to say they're looking strong going into the next major?
Yeah, and that's surprising, and it's actually kind of funny. Well, funny to on the outside looking in, but Simple leaving Flipside, saying they're not, they weren't good enough for him, and then he goes to Hellraisers, who failed to qualify while Flipside qualifies. That's got to be a little bit of a kick in the balls, but yeah, they looked good. Although, I mean, CLG beating them 2-0, that's impressive in its own right. So, yeah, they look good, and they're once again just more things these teams need to keep improving. The good thing about Flipside is Blade has said that the talent they have on that team, he believes Davkos is actually going to end up being the better player than Simple, which in my mind is a little crazy, seeing as how talented Simple is. But yeah, they look much better now that they've actually made that transition. Losing skill and improving at the same time. That's very, very impressive.
Our second topic this week is the Gfinity Champion of Champions tournament, very prestigious name, which took place between September 26th and 27th up in Birmingham, England, just up the road this time. The prize pool was $100,000, and there were only 4 teams in attendance, the previous 4 winners of Gfinity events from the year, which means, as we take a look at the graphic, that we have Fnatic, Ninjas in Pyjamas, Virtus.Pro, and Enviers in competition. Now, Jason, let's start in the top left, as we well might, with Fnatic beating Ninjas in Pyjamas 3-2. Now, that looks like it was a pretty close scoreline, but actually it was more in favour of Fnatic, if we're honest, right? I mean, NiP's 2 map wins were in overtime on Dust 2 and Inferno, and Fnatic breezed through their 3 wins. It was 16-13 on Mirage, and even 16-1 on Cobble, so pretty one-sided affair on that occasion. But outside of this match, it's been a pretty busy week for NiP in general, hasn't it, Moses?
Yeah, it has been with a lot of rumors swirling around that team. But I think it's funny. I think it was Thorin that initially pointed this out, that series, Fnatic got 16 rounds in all five maps in that best of 5, which is actually kind of insane to think about. You don't see that very often. But yeah, I mean, for NIP, I mean, you could still see the skill these guys have. And with all the rumors and with everything that appears to be coming to fruition as we go on, it just seems like more and more they've just loosened things up, playing for fun, playing individual, and you're seeing the kind of performances they can put out. But yeah, been a busy week. We'll just have to see where all those cards lay. Just so much information happening. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's real, what's false.
All right, well, focusing specifically on Counter-Strike and not the politics surrounding Counter-Strike, let's move down to the second match on the lower left there, where Enviers beat Virtus.Pro 3-2, and unlike the first game, this was a hell of a lot closer. I think the overall score in terms of rounds was 65-57 to Envy, so only 8 rounds separating these two teams across 5 maps, which is pretty damn close. However, unlike in Dubai, Virtus.Pro just couldn't seem to get themselves going, right? There was no Plow here. They seem to be struggling a little bit at times. What do you make of this game, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that, though. They've been, when that Plow is rolling, I mean, they're unstoppable. And when it's not, they can, they don't always reach to their peak. So, I mean, we've seen some inconsistencies in that playstyle of Virtus.Pro over the years, but I don't think this is really that. I just think both of these teams have a very similar explosive playstyle, predicated on like a lot of talent from their players, very, very good trading on entering bomb sites, a lot of aggression. And that's kind of where you see these score lines start to spread out, because when one team's clicking in those situations, the other team's economy comes into a big role, and that's when you kind of start seeing the scoreline spread out. So just going head to head and just Envy came on top of this. I actually think that was there's some rounds in those maps and series that could have made those maps much closer, even switched it the other way if just a crucial round is one that breaks the opposing economy at the right time. So that's just kind of how that playstyle works out when two teams with that playstyle clash.
All right, well, Enviers did then go from that match right through to the final, where they beat Fnatic 3-2. So the playstyle clearly serving them quite well. Now, Fnatic finished 3rd to 4th place in Dubai. They got 2nd place here. And it just feels like been having kind of a rough time recently, especially JW, who at this tournament finished minus 15 in kills and deaths and only pulled a 0.94 rating on HLTV. What do you make of their play as of late, Jason?
Well, in regards to JW individually, I mean, I think nothing of it. That's just his play style. It's those high risk, high reward plays, and more often than not, it's a high reward. This time he gets punished for it, and I think if you think he's going to change his style of play going into the next tournament whatsoever, you're insane. He's going to come right back with it. So I don't think anything of his performance individually. As a team, it's just one of those things you kind of got to laugh that we're talking about them, losing 3-2 in a finals, with three of the best teams in the world in it, as if they're slumping, and it's disappointing because they didn't win it. I mean, that's just how good Fnatic is. So, once again, I think nothing of it. I think they're still going to bring it when it comes to the major. We're at a point in Counter-Strike now where all of these teams, conceivably every team but maybe NIP could have won this tournament. So, it's just something that happens. You can't win them all.
Last but not least, I've got some quickfire topics for you, Jason. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories from the week. First, off the bat, Turner have announced that they're going to be televising a new CSGO league in the US.
Yeah, going to be on TBS, which is really cool when you think about it. And we don't really have a lot of information quite yet, so I don't know where to go with this. But if you want more information on it, Richard Lewis had a really great video highlighting his experience meeting with all the Turner people. And what he thinks about the league, and that's probably where you can get some of the best information possible. It's on his YouTube channel.
Second topic, TSM have won the Counterpit League, taking home $23,750.
Finally,
price.
They win something. Finally, they've won something.
Well,
so they take it over Envy, and it was an online best of 5, I believe, but still, they take that win, they get the money, that's good for them. Sometimes it's just winning some of these small things that'll just give you an extra boost moving forward, so that's good to see, and hopefully they continue that up as time goes on towards the major.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next Wednesday for another episode of PopFlash.